Yes.
Head.
All right. We're going to get started. Oh, I'm going to get my glasses on here. First, thank you all very much for your attendance today. It's wonderful to see all the many clean energy leaders in our state. It's also great to know that our electric truck here, Revision's electric truck, is powering this event 100%. And that truck is powered by that solar array on our roof, which we can't see here, but just wanted to mention that. It's pretty cool. It's already in action. But my name's Dan Clapp. I am a co-founder of Revision Energy. I currently serve as president and CEO, so I have the honor of welcoming everybody today. We're excited to welcome the Secretary of Energy and our governor to our headquarters. Our team works daily here, but we're also in other locations across New Hampshire and Maine doing the work that we're talking about today, all across northern New England. Our mission is to to make life better by building a just and equitable future. And there's really strong alignment here, which really excites us. We're at 100% employee-owned B Corp. We carry out our mission by installing residential, commercial, and community solar, as well as storage, EV charging infrastructure, and of course, heat pumps. We are proud of our leadership in the workforce development. We have 4 registered apprenticeship programs. Most recently launched a thermal installation track for our electrical apprentice program, so pretty proud of that as well. We are grateful for the Department of Energy for their tireless work to advance the clean energy nationwide. This work enables businesses like ours every day. We want to express our gratitude for the DOE programs, such as the programs that expand and benefits clean energy technologies for communities of all backgrounds, the increased workforce training in training members in underserved communities, the jumpstart of domestic manufacturing from the DOE, and that gives opportunities for companies like ours to source our products here in America, and also by building the critical necessary grid infrastructure of the future. That is critical work the DOE is doing, and we're grateful for that, and we're grateful for the mission alignment. You can understand then our excitement in welcoming the Department of Energy to our business, but this work would not be possible without the critical climate and clean energy leadership of our governor, Janet Mills, and her director, Dan Burgess. Maine is leading the nation in heat pump installations, and after smashing the goals that were laid out, The governor is literally out there setting new ones. We are so proud. We are so proud to be founded in this state with such leadership, and we are grateful for the incredible climate legacy of this administration. So with that, it's my honor to introduce Governor Janet Mills and welcome the governor.
Thank you, Dan. So I did issue an executive order, about the climate, and that's why we have all this warm, sunny weather this week. It's not fall. No, it's not fall at all. Listen, thank you, Dan. I'm thrilled to be welcoming my friend, U.S. Energy Secretary Jennifer Granholm this morning. So inviting her and welcoming her to Maine to celebrate an incredible $36 million grant that Maine has been awarded through the Inflation Reduction Act, a grant that will help thousands of Maine people install heat pumps and save money on their energy costs and cut our carbon emissions in the critical fight against climate change. Today, we take the next step in distributing that funding by announcing the availability of the Home Electrification and Appliance Rebates, or HEAR, H-E-A-R, rebates that will be administered by Efficiency Maine that will cover between 85 and 100% of the cost of installing heat pumps in low-income manufactured homes and in new affordable multifamily homes units here for an estimated 3,000 people in Maine. That's pretty good. My administration has invested an unprecedented amount of money, almost $315 million, to build more housing and to bring down costs for our folks in Maine. Many of those multifamily homes, like the Stroudwater Apartments, which we just visited, they're going to be equipped with high-efficiency heat pumps, which is another incredible cost savings measure. Simply put, this latest grant from the Biden-Harris administration builds on our efforts over the past 5.5 years to transition to renewable energy and build more affordable and efficient housing here in Maine. When I took office in early 2019, Maine was one of the most heating oil-dependent states in the country. We were sending billions of dollars out of a year, I think about $4 or $5 billion a year, out of pockets, and into the pockets of big oil and gas companies out of state. Money that could be spent here at home on education, on health care, on small businesses here in Maine. So I pledged to change that, in part by helping Maine people transition to heat pumps instead of costly, inefficient, and environmentally harmful heating oil. High-performance heat pumps and heat and cooling pumps, as we know, are affordable, they're efficient, they're easy to use, and they're accessible. They do work well in cold climates, and they're much more efficient than window air conditioning in the summer when used for cooling. In 2019, with support from the legislature, I signed a bill that set a goal of installing 100,000 heat pumps by 2025. Well, guess what? In 2023, we met that goal 2 years early. And we became a nationwide leader in the installation of heat pumps. Expanding the use of high-efficiency heat pumps also sparked a demand for heat pump installers and distributors and sellers. To meet that demand, we made community college free for recent high school grads. We expanded apprenticeships and pre-apprenticeships, and we boosted scholarships and student debt relief. Thanks in part to that investment, Kennebec Valley Community College trained hundreds of new heat pump installers alone to help us meet our goal. In addition to expanding job training, we also funded innovative startups through our partnerships with the Rue Institute, with Coastal Enterprises, with Central Maine Growth Council to support clean energy jobs. And we funded new clean energy workforce training programs, and thank you to the union members who are here, in Biddeford, Portland, Freeport, Augusta, Orono, and Oxford Hills. Supported by those investments, Maine's clean energy sector has become the fastest growing in New England and has grown more than 3 times faster than our overall economy, which is also growing. We have a pretty good rate of growth in our GDP. But clean energy jobs are the jobs of today and the jobs of the future. Now, the clean energy sector contributes more than $2.3 billion to our economy, and it supports more than 15,000 good-paying green-collar jobs in Maine. Many of those jobs are in energy efficiency fields, like heat pump installation and home weatherization. To keep our momentum going and to make sure that folks across Maine, particularly those in rural Maine, can stay comfortable in their homes and save money, I set an ambitious new target of installing another 175,000 heat pumps by 2027, and we're on our way to meeting that goal too. Earlier this year, we were part of a $450 million regional award from the EPA that will deliver more than $70 million in Maine for heat pump adoption. We also received $10 million from the Department of Energy to support our heat pump goals and to install heat pumps specifically in mobile homes across the state of Maine. That's like 1/8 of our housing stock. And it's not easy to install heat pumps in those particular, in manufactured housing and mobile homes. But we're going there. We're going to get it done. On top of those grants, we've now received this additional $36 million award that we've gotten to use to start the HERE rebate program to keep bringing down energy costs for Maine people. So that's more than $115 million in new federal support for heat pump adoption and installation across Maine just this year from the Biden-Harris administration. I should add, today we're talking about this latest grant, but I want people across Maine to know that the Biden-Harris administration is sending other significant resources to Maine to support the generation and storage of clean energy. Through the bipartisan infrastructure law, the U.S. Department of Energy has also awarded to Maine an additional nearly $150 million, a grant to create an innovative energy storage system in Lincoln, Maine. This is really revolutionary. A battery storage system. It's not lithium, it's iron air storage, the biggest one in the world. Those investments are truly going to make life better in Maine. And I want to thank President Biden, Vice President Harris, Secretary Granholm, Senator King, and Representative Pingree and Representative Golden for supporting the Inflation Reduction Act, which made this grant and the HERE program possible. Now it's my honor to introduce the United States Secretary of the Department of Energy, my friend, Jennifer Granholm.
Okay, so I am somebody who is very climate sensitive, and I know you guys in the front row are probably boiling. So if there is a way to maybe move some chairs into the shade so that you guys don't, so I'm not like feeling for you every time I look at you, can we move like a couple back here so that you don't have to sit in the direct sun for the next few minutes? Let's do it. I'm happy to come down and help. That makes me feel so much better. You're good? Okay. Depends on how, well, actually the sun maybe, is it going that direction? Yeah, okay. Hopefully you'll get more shady. Anyway, so thank you for being here. Gov, just love her. Sister Govs, when you were, where'd she go? right here. I'm like looking over here. Right, right. I love it. But, you know, we were attorneys general, we were governors. I mean, it's just, I so appreciate your incredible leadership that Maine is #1 in heat pumps. #1. So we want to make sure that that example that you're setting continues. Let me grab this because I'm going to use these slides a little bit to talk about not just Maine's leadership, but how it sits in the rest of the country as well. So can you guys see these? It's a little bit hard. But anyway, we know that obviously energy efficiency appliances and clean energy, it's hard because there is a lot of, I'm already going too fast, aren't I? Wait a second. I'm trying to go backwards. It's okay. I'll figure it out. Anyway, it's expensive. It's expensive to be able to install these kind of appliances on a regular basis, right? For just regular people. It's really expensive if you're poor. And so just as an example, this is a slide that shows about the solar adapter income distribution. If you have, if you're making over 120% of the area median income, you get 3 times more solar installation than you do, right? If you were on the lower end of the spectrum. So, in Maine, you have 2 in 5 households that are energy burdened. And in fact, you've got 1 in 4 that are severely energy burdened. And so what does that mean for that? We consider if you spend 6% of your income, then you're energy burdened. If you spend, more than that, obviously it's a lot. If you're making $31,000 a year in Bangor, you might be ended up spending, what does that say, $470 a month on energy bills. That's just huge energy burden. So what the governor has done is really focused on making sure that all Mainers, you said Maine people. Do you call them Maine people or Mainers? Optional? Okay, great. Mainers, okay. All folks who live in Maine should have the opportunity to have some of these technologies, right? That make a difference for folks. So we also know that making sure that you can afford these energy appliances is obviously really important for people who are energy burdened, but it's also a health issue too, because you've got extreme heat. Now, even in Maine, you've got thousands of homes and businesses that may be without power at a given time if the grid is jeopardized as a result of some of these extreme weather events. Bottom line is, it's important for the health and safety and pocketbook of Mainers and folks around the country. So what does this mean? Now, what if we flipped the script and made it easier for people who are lower income to have access to these technologies? Here, I'm just going to show you a quick video of me interviewing some folks who have benefited from weatherization in particular. I don't know if you can hear it. I don't hear is the audio
disconnected? She had no insulation.
So would you recommend weatherization to other people?
Absolutely, absolutely. Like I said, it's a game changer.
We decided we want to move to induction. It's just, it's more efficient. It's safer for the kids. And yeah, we love it.
Now, you have more than one heat pump.
Yes.
Correct, yeah. So this summer we installed a central heat pump.
Why did you need another heat pump?
We wanted to stop using our oil.
How much you're saving now as a result of the heat pumps?
Yeah, it's about $3,500 a year that we're saving.
I noticed my bill, it was like, it usually run like 180-ish.
So you started at 180 and you ended at 86?
Yes.
So it could have more than in half?
Mm-hmm.
Wow, that's amazing.
Reasons that my energy bills are as low as they are is that I also have rooftop solar in this old house. So for example, last month in September into October here in Wisconsin, my utility company owed me $30. And that's including the powering of my electric vehicle.
Electric bill down from like $210 to under $70.
Wow, cut more than in half.
Yes, ma'am. Water bill, because of the work they did, from $170. Now I'm paying below $60.
Oh my gosh.
Gas bill, because our heat is central heat and air, but the heat for controlled by gas
Yeah.
from $120, and we're down below $70.
Oh my gosh.
Even in the winter.
Just saying, for real people, that is just a huge benefit. We were just at the Stroudwater apartments that have just been built in an energy efficient manner, and what they were saying is that those who reside there, I mean, their utilities are all included, but it would be the equivalent of going from $150 a month to about $75 a month. I like saying more than half, and so that's kind of what we want to offer to people across the country, right? So. For us at the Department of Energy, we are focused on reducing costs for people. And this is the Biden-Harris administration. Joe Biden, Kamala Harris, they're obsessed. How do we lower costs for people? And energy burden, of course, is one of the top. So this is what it looks like in how you lower your energy bills to get to those lower numbers. First of all, if you get your home weatherized, if you make less than $67,000 a year, all of it's free. Right? All of it's free. So you can lower your energy bills just by now, do they call efficiencymaine.com for weatherization too? Okay. So that's one way. And Maine is getting 10 times the amount of money that Maine normally would be getting because of the bipartisan infrastructure law, what Governor was talking about. There are 3 bills that were passed that form the basis of this Investing in America agenda. One is the bipartisan infrastructure law. The second is the Inflation Reduction Act. And the third is the CHIPS and Science Act. Maine is benefiting from all 3 of those, right? So one of the ways is in weatherization. So you're getting over $30 million a year on weatherizing where you used to get about 3. So that's great. You can serve 10 times as many people. The second way you can lower your energy bills is regardless of your income, is to get these tax credits. So for example, if you wanted to install solar on your roof, you get a 30% tax credit no matter what your income is. That's a tax credit, not a tax deduction. So it's a much better deal. We want to get the word out for people to be able to do that. And the third way you can do that is by these energy rebates. Part of the bipartisan infrastructure law was a $9 billion slug to go to states to be able to have them use this funding in the way that's unique to them to be able to serve folks and especially getting lower income folks. In this case, the rebates are $74,000, those who are making $74,000 a year or less are eligible. So great news, great partnership with Maine, and Maine getting $36 million. And this is part 1. So the governor mentioned that it's part of the HERE program. There's another half to these rebates, and that is coming next. And you guys have submitted a plan for that. That's another $36 million. And for that, there will be an expansion of access for people who maybe go above those income thresholds. So expanding continually the effort to do that. For this $36 million, we're filling in the gaps of what Maine is already doing. So for example, one of the areas you wanted help on is making sure that we were able to give people who live in manufactured housing and mobile homes the ability to access this. That wasn't previously available, and now it will be. Same thing with multifamily dwellings, apartments, et cetera. You hadn't had that before. We're filling in the gap with this $36 million. So you're covering the gamut of people. I have to put the efficiencymaine.com website up there because we want people to use it. So what do people have to do, everyday citizens? First, they have to confirm that they're eligible, and they can go to efficiencymaine.com to figure out whether, in fact, they're eligible and what they're eligible for. The next thing is Efficiency Maine will give them a home energy assessment. So somebody will come and see, what is it that you need to have done in your house? Do you need some insulation? Are you eligible for weatherization too? Do you need some, electrical upgrades to be able to get a heat pump? Do you need a heat pump? All of that. They'll do an assessment and tell you what you need and tell you what's available. And the third thing, of course, is to just install and save every month. Again, efficiencymaine.com with the phone number for the media who's here to make sure that they are knowing where to go. So annually, what can savings look like on different types of products? Well, $372 for weatherization, that's a nationwide number. You saw the people I was talking to, it was much more than that annually that they're saving. It just depends on where people are located and what their homes need. You can get a $1,500 savings with a heat pump annually. In fact, actually, with a heat pump in Maine, it's even a lot more than that. If people use oil or propane, it's a bigger stretch. $550 with a heat pump water heater you can save annually. If you do take advantage of those solar panels, you can get $2,400 savings annually on your energy bill. So almost $4,822 saved every year just by installing some of this equipment, which is fantastic. If you decide to switch to an EV, if your car is breaking down, you want to take advantage of the tax credits as well. So these are the numbers you're watching on the annual maintenance. So you could save about $1,700 a year by not having to pay for gas, but you also get $7,500 off at the dealer if you buy an electric vehicle that's made in America. $7,500 off at the dealer. And if you buy a used one, it's $4,000 off at the dealer. So we want people to consider that. It's not for everybody, but we think that once people drive electric, 90% of them don't go back because it's a great experience. Speaking personally, I know this. All right. What does this all mean for jobs? Appreciate our brothers from the labor, and maybe sisters too, from the labor movement here. 50,000 jobs nationwide just from the efficiency, just from this rebate program that will be created for all the installation that will be needed. So, okay, saving money. One way that the Biden-Harris administration is focused on lowering costs for people. I'm just going to quickly give you an example of some of the other ways that they are looking at. Obviously, lowering energy costs, hugely important. The second way that they're doing it is, I'm sure you've heard, for seniors, capping prescription drugs at $35 a month and negotiating, using Medicare to negotiate lowering prices for other drugs in addition to insulin. Student loan forgiveness, they have taken on, eliminating junk fees. They're looking literally for capping housing costs. So appreciate your focusing on affordable housing, making sure that folks have lower gas prices. We've been doing that at the Department of Energy by using our Strategic Petroleum Reserve to sort of balance out supply and demand. And in fact, gas prices have been much lower over the past couple of years. And inflation, you're going to hear from the Fed today about whether there's a lowering of interest rates. So right now, inflation is down from 9 to 2.5%. I think you'll probably see some activity on that. When the Fed lowers interest rates, that'll impact everybody in terms of lowering costs. So that's a great thing. I just have to give you some facts. Because of all this effort, because of the Inflation Reduction Act and the Bipartisan Infrastructure Law and the CHIPS and Science Act, since the start of the Biden-Harris administration, 16 million jobs have been created. Just to put that in perspective, that is more jobs. More jobs. Tell your Uncle Joe this, or your Aunt Susie, or whoever is skeptical. It is more jobs than any president in any term in the history of the United States have been created in these past 3.5 years. Biggest manufacturing comeback since the 1950s. Why? Because the Inflation Reduction Act puts all of these incentives in place for companies to decide to manufacture products in the United States. Huge influx of manufacturing opportunities. We'll talk about that in a second for what that means for Maine. Lowest Black and Hispanic unemployment rate in the history of the country. Record high stock market that we've seen. More small business applications than we have seen since this nation began in the past 3.5 years. So a lot going on. And for Maine, what does this mean? All of these dots represent companies that have come here or are expanding here in these various sectors in the clean energy space alone. In the clean energy space alone, we have seen over 800 factories across the country open up because of this 30% tax credit if you open up for building and for manufacturing clean energy products. You got electric vehicles here, heat pumps, solar, industrial decarb. You've got Nile Systems. They're doing heat pump manufacturing in Bangor. This is just examples. Timber HP and Madison, you're familiar with them. These are just, obviously what you're doing with offshore wind construction. The Bureau of Ocean energy. They're going to be doing this big announcement of the offshore wind auctions. You guys are at the center of so much that's happening, particularly in this next generation of offshore, which is floating platforms, which is very, very cool. It's something the Department of Energy has been working on. So there's an American priest who once had this quote, that home is heaven for beginners. And what that means basically is that home is your own little slice of heaven, right? Your place where it's safe and where your children are raised and where you know your neighbors, and it's a peaceful place. Often we want it to be, and it's a place of security. The energy reductions, the efficiency that we're talking about here, we just want to make sure that everybody has access to their own little slice of heaven, of making everybody be able to experience what it is to have your home and to have it buttoned down and to not worry about the stress of energy bills that are too high. So thank you to Maine for leading the way. Thank you to the Gov. I'm gonna invite our panelists up on stage. We're gonna have just a quick conversation. So come on up to the panel. Yep. Everybody come up. That means you two, Gov. I know, his son is amazing. You okay? You're sitting there in the heat, like, all right. Thinking about you.
Great. Well, how about a round of applause for Secretary Granholm for that amazing presentation?
Good job.
So my name is Dan Burgess. I'm director of Governor Mills' Energy Office. It's a real pleasure to be here today to highlight the home energy rebates program launch, but also to reflect and to I want to thank the Secretary and her team for the leadership, the coordination, and really an inspiring event. So thank you. We are pleased to work with the Department of Energy, our partners at Efficiency Maine Trust and Maine Housing on this program and others. But I want to introduce folks, obviously the Governor and the Secretary. I'm also joined by Rebecca Hatfield, the CEO of Avesta Housing, and Michael Stoddard, the Director of Efficiency Maine Trust. So we've polled the audience with a few questions, which I have the honor of asking. And so we're going to have a discussion around the audience questions. And our first one goes to Director Stoddard. This comes from Ann Plummer-Fisher from Gammons Home Services. Is Ann here? She might have submitted it online. Oh, there's Ann right there. Michael, can you talk to us about what's available on day one and how we're braiding federal funding with other efforts to minimize energy costs for Mainers? And to expand a little bit more, how are you making the process simple and easy for customers and the contractors, installers?
Thanks, Dan, and thanks for the question. Today we are announcing the launch of two new initiatives that we're going to be able to fund with this IRA rebate money that Secretary Granholm mentioned. Part one of that is going to be for low-income owners of manufactured housing. And for those folks, they can get a rebate of up to 85% of the project cost to completely switch out their heating and cooling system to a heat pump-driven system that fits into their existing ducted network. Secretary Granholm described how that process is going to work. At the beginning of it, you're going to sign up to, you're going to let us figure out whether you are income eligible, and once you've done that, we're going to send somebody out to the property to do a scoping and check that it's going to be appropriate fit for that application. We got to check a few other boxes to make sure that it's going to be a good fit, but that's part of what we're going to do to help customers know that this is going to be an appropriate solution for their home. We want to make sure it works well and that they're safe and sound through the winters, and so that's what that process is going to do. The Contractors will also be helped by this because we're going to do a lot of the upfront work of customer acquisition, so they don't have to spend their time doing that. They can just focus on quality installations. The second part of what we're announcing today is going to be for new construction of multifamily affordable housing, and we're really excited to be adding that to our repertoire. We're going to be partnering with Dan's office at Governor's Energy Office and our friends at Maine Housing to reach out to all of the developers of new affordable housing over the next couple of years. And thanks to these new funds, we'll be able to provide up to $8,000 per unit so that those units can all be heated and cooled with high-efficiency electric heat pumps like the Stroudwater apartments that you visited this morning. So we're doing everything we can to make that streamlined. The website is now open for business, so people who are interested can go to our website at efficiencymaine.com, and they will find their way to those two new initiatives that we're offering today. I do want to add one other clarification. For folks who are low income and looking for weatherization, their first call probably should be to their CAP agency, and that is the channel for those funds that the Secretary described, those new expanded weatherization funds, which is administered by our friends at the Maine Housing Authority.
My bad, sorry about that.
No,
Community
it's a
action
lot to keep track
agencies,
of.
we love them, and they do the weatherization.
Exactly. Great. No wrong door, though, right? Whoever you call will get you connected the right way. Right. Exactly. Great. Well, thanks, Michael. Rebecca, from the work you've been doing so far on affordable housing, thinking about what was the Secretary and the Governor Michael just laid out around federal funding, how will that funding help you assist those most in need?
Yeah, thank you for having me here today, and thank you, Dan, for that question. I think it's a really important question. So the funding that Michael outlined incentivizes and facilitates our ability to include clean energy and energy efficient appliances like heat pumps into affordable multifamily housing. And so I think what we're all asking is, what does that mean? And the most important question is, what does that mean for people in need? And I think the value of that funding is threefold, all of which has positive impacts on people in need. The first one is it improves resident comfort, heating and cooling, and it improves indoor air quality, which leads to a higher quality of living and has the added benefit of improving resident safety, particularly in climate change and when we're experiencing more extreme temperature events. The second thing is we're building cleaner buildings. We can remove boiler rooms, and it's increasing energy efficiency. And so when you add that with the right design or renewable energy, you are now starting to reduce energy consumption costs, which reduces the housing cost burden or the energy cost burden, which the Secretary mentioned earlier. And the third thing, which I think is not quite as obvious, but I think is equally as important, is when you have funding like this that offset discrete and upfront costs, it keeps us from having to sacrifice units to build better buildings. Or on the flip side of that coin is it's more resources so that we can free up other precious resources in housing programs and reallocate that to housing production and create more affordable housing, which directly impacts the people in need. And so the last thing I would say is when you combine those three things and you think about the fact that this program is helping to reduce the carbon footprint of affordable housing and improving our environment, it is an incredibly powerful and impactful resource.
Very well said. Thank you, Rebecca. Secretary Granholm, Governor Mills, hearing that and reflecting on the visit to Stroudwater this morning, do you have any reflections?
Well, certainly, we both do. No, I was so impressed with, I have an old house, not just the Blaine house, but I have my own house in Farmington. It's circa 1840. You can imagine the drafts. You can imagine the need for weatherization, the need for better insulation, and all those things. And I've had an assessment done, and one step at a time, I'm getting it done. It's an old house, and I'm, not a wealthy person, but getting there with efficiency and weatherization. But these units, 55 units in a newly built project, which are airtight, well insulated, the envelope is so clearly efficient. And the heat pumps, they're a new kind of heat pump and heat and cooling pumps, as we know. Solar on the rooftop, efficient materials used in the construction, LED light bulbs everywhere, which brings down the cost of electricity by something like 80% over time. All these things, they took such great care to build these units efficiently and cost effectively. Wasn't more expensive for the builder to speak of. It was just, hey, we can do these upfront measures to save costs in the long run and in the short run, frankly. So I was really impressed with, you just felt good walking into the rooms and walking into the units where you felt comfortable, automatically comfortable, not like the drafty old houses that some of us have. And, this also frees up because many of the people moving into these units are seniors. We know we have a big housing issue statewide, nationwide, frankly. But when people are able to downsize, move out of their single-family homes or other homes in the communities, that frees up housing for perhaps young families coming to this area from another part of the state or from another state. We have an influx of people in Maine. It's great. We welcome this. One of the highest in-migration rates in the country, certainly the highest in New England. We want places for those people to go without creating sprawl. So these units provide efficient homes for people who are downsizing, in particular, and freeing up housing space for others. And that's what I like about it.
And I would just add everything you said, and equivalent of paying $150 a month versus, in these units, $75 a month for your energy bill. Half off. Yeah. That's a good deal.
Yeah.
That's great. Governor, the next question is to you from Maureen Druin. Is Maureen here?
Oh, Maureen, I haven't seen her, but I know her.
Okay.
Maureen, she haunts the halls.
Do you view these rebates as important to helping reduce Maine's reliance on oil and gas?
Oh, Maureen, that's such a softball. Of course we do. And these rebates build on existing rebate programs that Michael's been administering for a number of years. And we've used some state funding, some other federal funding from other sources to build on and to get the word out that rebates for EVs, rebates for heat pumps, rebates for solar, rebates for weatherization are all to the betterment of Maine families and Maine communities. The more money we save families and communities in this state, the more money we can put towards education and health care and small businesses, the more money spent here at home for good purposes. So each family that saves thousands of dollars a year by not putting money into the pockets of big oil is putting money back into circulation in the state of Maine. Let me step back for a second, too, because I get to look at the whole picture and think about the whole picture as much as I can. When we talk about weatherization and insulation, we're also doing great things in other parts of the state. We've got some paper mills that have been vacant for a while. We took the paper mill in Madison, Timber HP, and redid that and made it into a manufacturing plant that makes wood fiber insulation. I can't say enough about that product. So in many of these new homes using rebates for heat pumps and solar, et cetera, they're also tightening their envelope, tightening the pocket of that home with wood fiber insulation from Maine, providing new good-paying jobs, new good products, inexpensive products that make your home more efficient and energy efficient. And we're lowering our carbon footprint.
That's great. Thank you, Governor. Michael, and just so I have the website right, efficiencymaine.com to learn more about this.
That's the one.
Okay, that sounds great. Secretary Granholm, this question is from Andy Shepard and David Korn, one from Harris-Seekit Consulting Group and the other Ridgeline Energy Analytics. This is not so much on home heat pump rebates, but what is the administration's plan for increasing access to EV chargers in rural communities? Maine is a large rural state. And then they go on to say, while we're on the topic of rural communities, I'd like to hear the Secretary's thoughts on overall efforts by the administration to benefit the rural United States.
Great. So on EV chargers, Maine got a slug of money from the bipartisan infrastructure law. It is the vehicle charging infrastructure fund, and I think you've actually, you guys have started installing. And what we want to do, of course, is to put these chargers in places where the private sector is not already going. So we know the private sector is going to go where there's a lot of EVs, but the question on the chicken and egg thing, people aren't going to get an EV if they don't feel like they can charge it somewhere, right? We want to make sure that these EVs are in rural areas or in urban areas where people may not have access to a charger at home, maybe in a multi-family dwelling, et cetera. So this part of the bipartisan infrastructure law has been amazing because all the states got funding to be able to figure out where their gaps are to be able to install them. I think you guys have like 54 contracted for sites across Maine. But the private sector is also working. So, for example, we've doubled, meaning since the Biden-Harris administration took office, the number of publicly available chargers in the country has doubled. So it's gone now, we're at 192,000 publicly available chargers all across the country. So if you travel on a travel corridor and you're on a freeway and you need to charge up, these are supposed to be every 50 miles, not more than 1 mile off the freeway, and app enabled so that you can see, is there one available and is somebody using it, and blah, 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 blah.
Get rid of range anxiety.
Get rid of range anxiety. So that gets to the question about how do we, it's one of the issues about why people don't buy electric vehicles is because of the range anxiety question and their fear of it costing too much upfront. And that's why the tax credits for purchasing electric vehicles are also a big part of the equation. With respect to rural communities, there has been so much investment across America in this, since the Inflation Reduction Act came into being. Almost a little over $500 billion of private sector investment leveraged by these tax credits. And that's all across the country. But here is the thing that I think is most important, is that 81% of the investment has gone to counties with below average incomes. A lot of that is rural counties. A lot of that is counties where you have disadvantaged communities. So to me, what has happened is that structurally, businesses are rewarded for locating in former energy communities, for example, in disadvantaged communities in rural areas where people have not benefited in the past from development and from jobs, of course, for manufacturing. This is flipping the script on that as well. It's sort of making sure that all pockets of America have access to this new economy, especially in the clean energy side that is being created as a result of the Invest in America agenda.
Can I just add, nobody here is talking about mandates of any kind. These are fully incentives. That's the way we get things done. Nobody's telling anybody they have to do an EV or heat pump or insulation. These are incentives that make it worth people's while to do them. And the other thing is the workforce, which you mentioned and we mentioned earlier. We're on our way to our goal of doubling the clean energy workforce by 2050. And this is incredible. New jobs. And we're seeing young people moving here and taking up these jobs, being trained at the community colleges, being trained by apprenticeship programs and pre-apprenticeship programs, and getting into something that they love. You can see it in their eyes. They love doing something that's good for their community and for the country.
Can I just say a word about apprenticeship programs too?
Yeah.
Because part of these bills incentivize apprenticeship and paying prevailing wage, so good labor practices. If you do that, then you get 5 times the incentives as a private sector entity than you would otherwise. So we like to say in the Biden-Harris administration that this manufacturing revolution is private sector led, but government enabled. So to your point about incentives, this is just making sure that the United States is irresistible for investment.
Could I just add something, Dan, about the question about rural participation? As Dave Korn is in the front row here knows, we've made some maps of where people have taken advantage of the heat pump programs throughout Maine, organized by zip code. And what you find is that the most dense participation in heat pump programs in Maine is in northern Aroostook County, which is the tippy-top northern crown of our state, is the most rural and remote part of our state. So not only is it the coldest part of our state, reinforcing the message that they do work in the cold, but it shows that we're so lucky to have more than 680 registered contractors throughout the state, serving every corner of the state, who are making this market, this private sector, as you describe it, work well, and the incentives just grease the skids.
Yeah, and I would just, a perfect example of that, just to put the point on it is, so we have a development, Edgewater Village in Farmington, Maine, which is 25 units for those who are 55 and older, and Maine Housing is providing the funding. We are using a state energy rebate to put energy efficiency appliances in that building, and that is actually making the development possible because rents need to be low in rural areas to serve the people that are there. The energy rebate is really bringing some precious resources that's getting the housing over the line.
Thank you for doing something for Farmington.
Yes, you're home, Governor, yes.
Awesome.
That's great. Well, please join me in thanking our panel for the discussion today.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
All right.
It is now my pleasure to introduce the South Portland Mayor, Misha Pride, for closing remarks. Thank you.
Good afternoon. Thank you, Governor Mills, for your remarks and being here today as part of that panel, and Secretary Granholm for your insightful presentation. Also, to our other esteemed panelists, let me express my gratitude for your valuable contributions to today's discussion. Before I continue, I want to extend a special thank you to Revision Energy for hosting us here today in South Portland. Revision's commitment to accelerating New England's clean energy transition aligns perfectly with our local, state, and federal efforts to combat climate change. Their work in solar energy heat pumps and electric vehicle charging infrastructure is a shining example of how businesses can be leaders in creating a sustainable future. As we've heard today, the initiatives being launched at the federal and state levels are set to bring about transformative changes in how we approach energy consumption and climate action. I'm excited to share a little bit about how these efforts align with and complement the work we've been doing right here in South Portland. In 2020, South Portland, in partnership with the City of Portland, adopted the One Climate Future Plan. This comprehensive climate action and adaptation plan sets ambitious yet achievable goals that dovetail beautifully with Governor Mills's Maine Won't Wait initiative. Both plans recognize the urgency of our climate crisis and the need for decisive action. One Climate Future outlines 3 key objectives for South Portland. 1, transitioning to 100% clean renewable energy for municipal operations by 2040, reducing citywide greenhouse gas emissions by 80% by 2050, and building resilience in our neighborhoods, infrastructure, and ecosystems to withstand the impacts of climate change. These goals mirror the state's commitment to climate action and contribute to the broader national objectives outlined in President Biden's Investing in America agenda. We know that the HERE program will work because one of our most successful initiatives in pursuit of these goals has been our Electrify Everything program. This program launched with $270,000 in ARPA funding, thank you again, President Biden and the Biden-Harris administration, and with the Partnership of Efficiency Maine, provided education and financial support to help our residents transition to cleaner, more efficient energy solutions. In just 10 months, we distributed $262,000 in rebates to low to moderate income South Portland residents. These rebates covered a range of purchases from electric vehicles and e-bikes to energy efficient heating and cooling systems and home weatherization improvements. The success of this program demonstrates the power of incentives when coupled with strong partnerships and clear goals. It's a microcosm of what we're seeing at the state and federal levels, where strategic investments are driving rapid change in our energy landscape. Another area where we've made significant strides is in solar energy. Revision has been an important partner. In 2022, South Portland added 4 new solar arrays to our portfolio. These projects, along with our pre-existing arrays, now offset more than 70% of our municipal and school electricity use. Not only are these arrays reducing our city's greenhouse gas emissions, but they're also projected to save approximately $25 million over their lifespan. In 2023 alone, these arrays generated more than 6 million kilowatt hours of clean, renewable energy, enough to power over 500 homes for a year and save the city more than $800,000. These local initiatives complement the broader investments we're seeing at the state and federal levels. As we've heard today, Maine is set to receive significant support from President Biden's Investing in America agenda. This includes an estimated $250 million in investments in large-scale clean power generation and storage between now and 2030, which will further accelerate our transition to clean energy. Moreover, the energy sector in Maine employed 25,700 workers in 2022, and this number is expected to grow with these new investments, as you've heard. This aligns perfectly with our local efforts to create good-paying jobs while advancing our climate goals. Companies like Revision are at the forefront of this job creation, demonstrating how the transition to clean energy can be a powerful economic driver for our communities. In closing, I want to emphasize that the work we're doing in South Portland in concert with state and federal initiatives and private sector partners like Revision is not just about meeting targets or saving money, although those are certainly important benefits. It's about creating a more resilient, sustainable, and equitable future for all of our residents. It's about ensuring the natural beauty and resources that make Maine so special are preserved for generations to come. Thank you all for your attention and for your commitment to this crucial work. Together, we can build a cleaner, greener, and more prosperous Maine. Thank you. And I believe that concludes our program.